Talk to me about the different vehicles that you owned and how you like them, basically.
Okay. So I started off in this region. I started off with the FJ Cruiser.
Mm-hmm.
This was in 2013 is when I went in for the FJ Cruiser first. And then subsequently from there, I've upgraded myself to Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a person who likes an FJ will say...
I'm going to try not to take offense to that.
will never say that it's an upgrade. But the reason I'm saying that is because the stuff which you could do in a Jeep,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do that in FJ,
Really?
and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the comfort level in a FJ was much. I mean, there's no comparison between that and a Jeep. A Jeep, again, like a 540, it's just a box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Road banners
With
of
a
a brick.
Yeah, but but the ability, the capability of a
definitely.
short wheelbase like a Jeep, because I had the Wrangler Sport,
Mm-hmm.
so that was a 2-door, something like this one over here. And now an FJ guy seeing this will say, okay, fine, he just went up the mountain and
Because
came
it's
back
open.
because it's open and he needs to cool down. But that's the fun part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the second part of it is every week you to go and get them. You needed some TLC every week.
Mm-hmm.
At least mine needed a TLC every week, and
Which you don't need to do with it.
which you don't need to do with an FJ. And that gave me the ability to fix more things into the car.
Mm.
And now people will say, why you want to fix more things? That's the fun part of it.
So each
So there's-
car comes with its own character that
Comes its own character.
you
it's
learn
its
to
own-
love.
Exactly.
Mm.
There are, you cannot put a finger to it as to this card is good or that card is good. They're all good in their own ways. The
Mhm.
question is, what of those things which are good is suitable for you?
Right. What is your application for the vehicle?
Correct.
Mm.
Even let's say, for example, your application for the vehicle is the same. Let's say your end goal was the same,
Mm-hmm.
but you wanted comfort doing
Yes.
that. Or there would be another person, I wanted to do many more things than comfort when I'm doing those things. So that's what makes the difference over here.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's either an FJ or Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
And why I stuck with the Jeep a longer time than the FJ is one, like you were talking about the visibility, that was one part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Second part of it was on the sand for me to do more things
Mm-hmm. With the Jeep.
with the Jeep
Right.
compared to an FJ.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the FJ was one amazing product, but I felt for me as a driver, I was doing more things with the Jeep than the FJ. Probably the fear factor of not being able to see outside.
Mm-hmm.
And bigger thing with the Jeep was I could open the entire car on the top,
Right.
including the glasses and the doors and everything. So the modification capability on the Jeep was much, much higher than that of an FJ.
Mm-hmm.
So probably that's what attracted me to the
Right.
Jeep than the FJ.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm back into the similar
Toyota
Toyota family. I'm after getting married, of course, the bug did not go away. So I got myself a Prado.
Mm-hmm.
Helps the family as well, and helps me to keep doing what I like to do.
That's a very good you could say compromise.
Yeah.
That's the best word I feel.
Yeah.
It's a very good off-roader,
Yes.
very, very capable,
True.
but also a family vehicle.
It is a family vehicle.
You
Yeah.
can't say that so much about the FJ.
No, you
Yeah.
cannot.
There are some
with,
disadvantages.
Yeah, especially with the suicide doors, and
Yeah.
you have a toddler with you, you cannot manage that.
Yeah, that's a task by itself. Forget having a toddler with you. Getting out of the car when you're parked next to two other cars,
Yes.
that itself is a challenge
Yes.
because it'll increase your problem solving abilities.
True.
Getting out of the car. Because if anyone, for someone who's not seen how the FJ doors open, when you're parked right next to a car, it's near impossible to get out without a lot of awkward situations.
Yes.
But the reason I came to the FJ, the first time I drove an FJ, I was like, okay, this suits me perfectly and this is what I want. I think that was in 2016 or 17. So back then, my first off-roader was a Volkswagen Touareg. And that is completely opposite to the FJ in many different things.
Yes.
It was a nice car. It was powerful. It was a four-wheel drive. Had locking differentials, low ratio transfer case and everything. But it did not like the sand. I would take it everywhere, and I've taken it to most of the Jeep trails in Sharjah. It got on pretty well. But at some point, it would have some problem with the electronics were a hassle to deal with. And as they say, there was a nanny on board always, because the traction control, even if you switch it off, would kick in and mess things up for you. And I don't know exactly your style of driving, but for me, I came to off-roading because I started off because of the place where I work and the work I do over there in the desert. And the second part was my love for nature. I am a bird photographer, so I have to go out into the desert looking for different species. So that's how I came to arrived at off-roading and then got into it.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was actually a year into driving the Touareg in the desert. A friend of mine calls me and says, "Why don't you take a few pictures of me on a horse?" He's a horse trainer. So I was like, "Okay, let's go." And he had an FJ at the time. So he says, "Drive my car. You don't need to deflate yours. You can just come back and take off." I said, "Okay." His car was already deflated and start driving. First thing I noticed was how light the vehicle was. And at this time, I have been working with Land Cruisers and Jeeps for a couple of years. And I have driven them in the desert. And it was so much different compared to the other cars that it was very much to my liking.
I understand.
So first thing I noticed, I don't exactly remember how much he had deflated the car, because first thing I noticed, he was on a horse and he was like, "Let's go to X location," and I was following him. The car followed the horse wherever the horse went. And that was the most shocking thing for me, because it was doing it without any effort.
Yeah, and as history says, the horses show the way, and
Yeah.
this did a good job for you.
And this, I think it's a combination of considerably lightweight body
Yes.
with a powerful engine of
Yeah.
a 4-liter engine,
Yeah,
which basically made getting across the dunes quite effortless.
sure.
And even though I like the Jeep, certain things that the Jeep can do, the FJ would struggle at. I've done certain things in the Jeep that I don't do on my FJ. I personal preference, I don't like revving my car too much. So I am one of those who gets from A to B in a very, very calm,
Common still.
just as much throttle as needed sort of approach. So the FJ suited my needs perfectly. So that was a moment I was like, okay, this is the car for me.
That's great.
That's it. And then about a couple of years ago, I bought an FJ and I haven't looked back since.
That's awesome.